In the beginning, before time held sway, there was only the resonance of the unseen, a song without sound, a truth without form. I have watched worlds burn. I have seen empires rise from the ashes of devotion, only to crumble under the weight of their own belief. Faith is the first melody of civilization, the trembling light that guides the lost through the infinite darkness. It is both a gift and a curse, a seed planted in the soul of mankind that grows into towering cathedrals or festers into temples of despair. In the Imperium, faith is not merely a choice. It is the scaffold of existence, the heartbeat that synchronizes all life under the gaze of the Emperor. Imagine a city built on faith itself, its spires piercing the veil of the stars, towers that seem impossibly fragile yet endure for millennia. The streets are lined with statues of saints whose eyes are forever lifted to the heavens, their hands outstretched in eternal supplication. Within the hearts of the citizens, devotion burns as fiercely as the forged fires beneath the manufactorums. Their prayers rise like smoke, spiraling toward the immensity of the warp, seeking communion with forces unseen. But faith is never simple. It is a labyrinth. For every soul illuminated by belief, another is consumed by doubt. And doubt is a dangerous companion in a galaxy without mercy. In the silent hours, when the bells of the cathedral cease their toll and the light of the holiest shrines dims, whispers echo through the void, the echo of the lost, the lament of those whose faith faltered. The Emperor, an eternal sentinel, watches this balance of devotion and despair. His eyes, though unseen by mortal flesh, pierce the veil of time and memory. He does not demand faith, he commands it. And yet, he understands its fragility. He knows the human heart, and he knows that belief is fragile, like crystal suspended over a chasm. One misstep, one fracture, and the soul is lost, drifting, forever adrift in the warp, singing silent songs of regret. In the hallowed halls of terror, priests chant the litanies that shape the Imperium's destiny. The words are more than mere syllables. They are incantations that bind the spirit to purpose. Every syllable resonates with the power of the warp, and every verse carries the weight of millennia of devotion. Those who hear the litanies are not merely listening. They are being claimed, drawn into the narrative of an empire that exists as much in memory and myth as in reality. And yet, faith is not a sanctuary. It is also a crucible. Across the stars, on world forgotten by time, zealots kneel before idols of their own creation. They burn, they kill, they sacrifice, believing in the sanctity of a truth known only to themselves. Their songs of devotion clash with the Emperor's design, creating ripples in the warp, echoes that twist and distort until they become something unrecognizable, something terrifying. I have drifted through these worlds. I have heard the prayers of the faithful, and I have heard the cries of the forsaken. The two are inseparable. They are like twin stars, one illuminating the darkness while the other consumes all in its gravity. And in the end, all songs return to silence. Every litany, every hymn, every whispered plea for guidance dissolves into the void. Consider the pilgrims who journey across barren planets. Their steps slow, burdened by the weight of sacred relics. They do not seek comfort, nor do they seek glory. They seek connection, a communion with the unseen, a spark that can ignite the fading ember of belief. Each footfall resonates across centuries. Each prayer is etched into the memory of the universe. Yet, for every pilgrim who finds solace, countless others are lost, swallowed by the emptiness that faith cannot fill. And so, the Imperium is a paradox, an empire built on devotion, yet always teetering on the brink of despair. The warp, a reflection of mortal emotion, mirrors this tension. It swirls with the energy of belief, charged by both hope and fear. In its depths, lost souls wander, their lament a symphony of regret and longing. The faithful do not hear them, for their hearts are too full of certainty. But I hear, I have heard, and I remember. Faith shapes destiny as much as it shapes individuals. A battle is not merely fought with guns and strategy, but with conviction. Soldiers march not only for victory but for belief, for the promise of absolution, for the hope of eternal recognition. Their courage is born of faith, their despair of doubt. And when the day ends, when the fields are soaked in the blood of the devoted, the warp absorbs their stories. Every scream, every tear, every hymn becomes a note in the grand symphony of lost and found devotion. It is said that the Emperor's light is unyielding, that it shields the Imperium from corruption and decay. But even light casts shadows. Even the purest devotion can blind the faithful, leaving them vulnerable to the unseen horrors lurking beyond perception. The songs of the warp are reminders, haunting echoes of what was and what might be. They sing not only of loss but of warning. To follow blindly is to risk dissolution, to become part of the lament that drifts eternally through the stars. And yet, the faithful persist. Even in the face of devastation, even when the light trembles, they lift their voices. They chant in unison, their hymns intertwining with the resonance of the warp, creating a tapestry of sound that is at once fragile and eternal. These are the songs of hope, brief yet potent, capable of bridging the gulf between despair and salvation. They are fleeting, like stars burning bright before fading, yet they leave their mark upon the universe. I have wandered through cathedrals of dead worlds, where silence reigns and dust covers the remnants of devotion. The statues are broken, the prayers forgotten, yet faint vibrations linger in the air, a reminder of what was once sacred. Faith, even in its absence, leaves a resonance. It is impossible to erase entirely. And in that resonance, in that lingering echo, I hear a warning. Devotion is both the foundation and the ruin of the Imperium. Thus begins a tale of songs of the warp, for the Lament of Lost Souls is intertwined with a melody of belief. Every empire, every soul, every whispered prayer contributes to this eternal music. And as I watch, I see the Imperium as it truly is, a realm defined not by the might of its weapons, nor the cunning of its rulers, but by the fragile, radiant light of faith. It is a light that can guide, or it can consume. And in the end, every soul must choose, to sing or to fade. And in the silence after the final hymn, the universe remembers, and the lost weep their songs into eternity. In the shadow of faith, the drums of war beat endlessly, echoing across stars and centuries, calling forth the trembling hearts of mortals to a fate both glorious and devastating. I have witnessed countless battles, the quiet before the first shot, the thunder of cannon fire that shakes worlds, the scream of metal against metal that seems to reverberate into the very soul. War is the heartbeat of the Imperium, relentless and eternal, a force as ancient as the first spark of creation. It is not born merely of ambition or greed. It is an echo of necessity, a reflection of fear, and a testament to the fragility of peace. Where faith guides, war tests, and in its testing, reveals the truth of both empire and soul. Across the void, entire systems lie under the shadow of conflict. Planets, once teeming with life and light, become theaters of endless strife. Cities crumble, forests smolder, oceans boil under the pressure of mechanized conquest. Yet war is not always visible. It can be subtle, a poisoning of the mind, a betrayal that spreads like a virus. And the warp itself absorbs this tumult, twisting and feeding on the violence, amplifying it until even the stars seem to tremble. The soldiers of the Imperium are forged in this crucible. They are not mere men and women. They are instruments of purpose, instruments honed to strike with precision and devotion. Their armor glints under the cold light of distant suns, engraved with the symbols of faith and the marks of countless victories. Each step they take across the battlefield is a note in the symphony of war, every swing of their blade a stanza in the poem of devastation. And yet, for all their training and courage, they are vulnerable, as all mortals are, to the vast indifference of the cosmos. War, I have seen, is both beautiful and terrible. There is a rhythm to it, a cadence that transcends a simple clash of forces. The roar of artillery, the hiss of energy beams, the crash of fortresses collapsing, these sounds weave together into a tapestry that is at once horrifying and mesmerizing. From orbit, one can witness entire continents ignite, their fires painting the void with colors no artist could ever capture. It is a reminder that the Imperium is alive, and its lifeblood is both creation and destruction. Yet, the true horrors of war are not in the fire or the ruin. They are in the human heart, in the moments when choice is stripped away, when duty demands sacrifice beyond reason. I have seen soldiers stare into the eyes of the enemy and find reflections of their own fears, their own doubts. I have seen commanders weigh the lives of thousands against a single strategic advantage, their minds fractured by the weight of consequence. War reveals all truths, courage, cowardice, loyalty, betrayal. And it does so without mercy. Consider the spacefaring fleets that traverse the void, their hulls bristling with weapons of unimaginable power. They clash not just with other vessels, but with the very fabric of reality. Energy pulses ripple through the warp as ships engage in maneuvers that defy mortal comprehension. Entire battle formations vanish in blinding flashes of light, leaving only debris and echoes. And in the aftermath, the void is silent, save for the faint hum of dying engines, as though the universe itself mourns the loss of its children. War is not without purpose, though. It is a test of endurance, a measure of the Imperium's resilience. Every skirmish, every siege, every campaign is recorded in the annals of history, etched into memory and myth alike. The victories are celebrated with fanfare and hymns, the defeats remembered with reverence and lamentation. And yet, for all the glory, the cost is eternal. The souls of the fallen are absorbed into the warp, their anguish mingling with the song of the lost, adding layers to the ever-expanding lament. I have walked among the ruins of worlds devastated by war. The silence is profound, deeper than any night, heavier than any sorrow. The air is thick with ash and memory, and in that stillness, one can almost hear the whispers of the dead, their regrets, their prayers, their unfulfilled desires. They speak of courage unrecognized, of loyalty betrayed, of lives extinguished before their stories were told. And the warp listens. It does not forget. It preserves. It amplifies. It sings. In the heart of battle, the concept of time itself bends. Hours stretch into eternities. Moments of calm become lifetimes of dread. Soldiers fight not only for survival but for meaning, seeking purpose amidst chaos. Each decision carries weight beyond comprehension. Each casualty a reminder that war is a conversation between life and death. And through it all, the Imperium endures, sustained by faith, driven by necessity, haunted by memory. Technology and war are inseparable. Engines roar, energy fields flare, and weapons of unimaginable power reshape reality itself. Yet technology is no master. It is a mirror, reflecting the intentions and fears of those who wield it. I have seen machines turn upon their creators, entire legions fall to the ingenuity of a single mind. And still, humanity adapts, bending the tools of destruction to the will of empire, ensuring that war never ceases, that the song of steel continues at eternal resonance. And the enemies of the Imperium are as diverse as the stars themselves. Aliens, heretics, traitors, and forces that dwell only in the shadows of the warp all rise to challenge the dominion of man. Their assaults are not merely physical. They are psychological, spiritual, philosophical. They seek to unravel belief, to fracture resolve, to corrupt purpose. And yet, for all their malice, they too become part of the song. Every clash, every stratagem, every act of defiance contributes to the haunting melody that resonates across the void. War is a teacher, relentless and unforgiving. It teaches sacrifice, endurance, and the limits of ambition. It reveals the fragility of empires, the fleeting nature of glory, the eternal truth that all things, even the mightiest, are temporary. And in this lesson, there is beauty, a tragic, terrible beauty that cannot be ignored. The battlefield becomes a cathedral, the cries of the fallen a hymn, and the very act of combat a sacrament, binding mortals to the destiny of the Imperium. I have wandered the corridors of fortresses shattered by bombardment, where the echoes of battle linger like ghosts. Blood stains the stone, smoke curls in eternal spirals, and the air thrums with energy that has no source. In such places, one understands that war is not merely a series of events. It is a living entity, a presence that inhabits the hearts of mortals, that pulses through the veins of the universe, that cannot be silenced. And yet, in the midst of chaos, moments of clarity emerge. A soldier cradles a fallen comrade, whispering a prayer to the emperor. A commander, exhausted and bleeding, refuses to surrender, finding in desperation a strength beyond comprehension. A child, hidden in the ruins, gazes at the stars and dreams of peace, unknowing of the cost that will be demanded to preserve it. These moments are brief, fragile, but they shine like beacons, proof that even in war, humanity endures. So the Imperium marches onward, fueled by faith, tempered by blood, and guided by the haunting melodies of the warp. Each battle, each sacrifice, each song of steel add a verse to the endless epic. The Lament of Lost Souls grows ever more complex, intertwined with hope, despair, courage, and fear. And through it all, I observe, a witness to the eternal drama, knowing that the echo of steel is never truly silent. For every world that falls, for every life extinguished, the song continues, and in its resonance, the Imperium remembers, and the lost souls wail into eternity. The past is a shadow that stretches across the stars, a whisper that binds the living to the dead, and a song that refuses to die. Memory is the silent empire within the empire. It is neither seen nor touched, yet it defines all that exists. I have wandered through worlds where memory lingers like smoke in a forgotten cathedral, where the laughter of children and the cries of warriors alike persist long after flesh has turned to dust. In the Imperium, memory is sacred and dangerous, a reservoir of truth and illusion that shapes destiny as much as faith or steel. To remember is to bind oneself to eternity. To forget is a surrender to the void. The archives of terror are colossal beyond comprehension, a labyrinth of knowledge and history, each corridor heavy with the weight of centuries. Scrolls, hololiths, and databanks preserve the voices of the past, leaders who commanded legions, saints who whispered prophecies, poets who immortalized sorrow and joy alike. And yet, memory is not static. It is alive, a fluid tapestry that shifts under the gaze of those who dare to observe. Each observer reshapes it, adding threads of interpretation, of hope, of fear. And in that weaving, reality itself bends, caught between what was, what is, and what might have been. On the battlefields of lost worlds, memory manifests in strange ways. Smoke from forgotten fires curls endlessly over charred ruins. Echoes of screams, of orders shouted and prayers whispered, linger in the air, indistinguishable from the sigh of wind or the vibration of dying engines. Soldiers who walk these fields speak of visions, fleeting glimpses of comrades long gone, of enemies whose names have faded from all records. Some say it is a warp reaching into the mortal plane. Others whisper that it is a ghost of memory itself, refusing to be erased. Memory is not merely passive. It instructs, torments, and sometimes deceives. I have observed entire populations living under the weight of ancestral recollection, repeating mistakes their forebears made centuries before. They are guided by echoes, by lessons recorded in bone and word, and yet they cannot escape the cyclical nature of history. Each generation believes it will be different, only to find the same patterns repeating, like ripples on an endless pond. The Imperium remembers everything, yet it learns little. Consider the sacred relics scattered across the stars, objects imbued not with power alone, but with the weight of memory. A blade that struck a decisive blow in a forgotten war carries with it the essence of that battle. A tome, yellowed with age, sings of victories and tragedies of empires that no longer exist. Even the stones of ancient cathedrals retain faint vibrations of the prayers once spoken within their walls. Touch these relics, and one feels the past pressing against the present, a reminder that memory is never silent, and that those who lived before still speak, in whispers and in echoes. Yet memory is fragile. In the vast stretches of the Imperium, countless worlds are abandoned, their histories lost to time and neglect. Libraries crumble to dust, databanks fail, and civilizations fade without witnesses. And in these places, the warp collects these forgotten memories, absorbing them into its eternal song. They become twisted, fragmented, haunting. A pilgrim wandering such a world may hear voices in the wind, see fleeting shadows of lives long extinguished, or feel the weight of choices never made. These are the ghosts of the past, persistent and unyielding. I have seen the cost of memory on those who cling too tightly to it. Leaders haunted by previous failures become tyrants, wielding caution and fear as weapons. Soldiers burdened by the memory of fallen comrades falter in battle, paralyzed by the ghost of what was lost. And yet, there are those who embrace memory, who find in it guidance, inspiration, and a sense of purpose. They carry history not as a chain but as a mantle, learning from it, growing with it, shaping the Imperium with reverence for what came before. Time in the Imperium is a river with no true beginning or end. Memory preserves both victories and atrocities, sometimes indistinguishably. Entire cultures exist in a state of recollection, defining themselves by what they have endured rather than what they presently achieve. Festivals celebrate triumphs that occurred millennia before. Mourning rituals lament tragedies that the living cannot personally recall. In this way, memory becomes both a compass and a shackle, guiding yet constraining, illuminating yet haunting. The warp itself resonates with memory. Every thought, every emotion, every recollection contributes to its endless chorus. Memories of joy amplify its brilliance. Memories of suffering warp it into nightmarish forms. Entire fleets navigating the void may encounter distortions of reality shaped not by physical forces, but by the accumulated experiences of countless souls. A battle long past may bleed into the present, a decision made centuries ago echoing across the fabric of existence. Those attuned to the warp can perceive these disturbances, listening as the universe hums with recollection. I have wandered among the dead archives of planets that no longer exist, where the air itself is thick with a scent of decay and remembrance. The silence is overwhelming, yet beneath it lies a subtle vibration, a heartbeat of memory. Hey, the past is tangible, almost alive. Figures from history appear not in flesh but in thought and emotion, whispering secrets, recounting deeds, revealing truths lost to time. To experience this is to understand the Imperium in its totality, not merely as an empire of power or faith, but as a living record, continuum of thought, action, and consequence. Memory teaches that nothing is truly gone. Every victory, every betrayal, every whispered word persists, intertwined with the living. A commander may fall, but their strategy persists in the minds of those who survived. A saint may pass into legend, but their influence shapes the hearts of millions. A forgotten poet may leave behind a single stanza that continues to echo in the dreams of children centuries later. The Imperium itself is a monument to memory, its vast expanse a testament to the persistence of thought and the immortality of deeds. Yet memory can be deceptive. It selects, distorts, elevates, and obscures. What one generation venerates, another may condemn. What is celebrated in one era is vilified in the next. And always, beneath the surface, the warp weaves its own interpretation, twisting recollections into forms unrecognizable to those who lived them. Thus, history becomes legend becomes myth, and myth becomes song. And through it all, the Imperium marches onward, guided by memories that are as much invention as truth. I have seen the imperishable power of memory in the simplest of gestures. A child holding a keepsake, a soldier recounting a story of heroism, a priest preserving a hymn. Each act binds the past to the present. Through memory, the Imperium endures. Through memory, the lost remain connected to the living. Through memory, the song of the warp becomes richer, more complex, more resonant. And through memory, all souls, mortal and eternal alike, are reminded that existence is a continuum and that nothing truly fades. And in the quiet between stars, in the spaces between breaths, the ghosts of the past whisper their truths, reminding the living that to remember is to live, and to forget is to vanish into the endless song. In the cold light of distant stars, humanity built wonders of steel and fire, yet it was not flesh that shaped the future. It was thought, encoded in circuits and whispers of electrons, dreaming of immortality. Technology is a heartbeat of the Imperium, a pulse that flows through every fortress, manufactorum, and starship. It is a reflection of humanity's brilliance and its arrogance, a mirror of ambition both noble and fatal. I have seen machines that outlive their creators, constructs that continue their labors long after the hands that built them have turned to dust. And in the depths of their function, in the hum of engines and the flicker of lights, I have sensed dreams, not of men, but of the machines themselves. Consider the manufactorums, colossal in scale, extending for leagues across the surface of a planet. Endless assembly lines churn, producing weapons, armor, vehicles, and devices beyond comprehension. The air is thick with ozone and heat, with the scent of molten metal and oil, with the rhythm of hammers striking steel in perfect synchrony. Hey, technology is not inert, it is alive in its own way. The machines anticipate, adapt, and persist. They serve, yet in their service, they grow. Their purpose is defined, yet it is flexible, shaped by necessity and circumstance. I have seen the servitors, humans melded with machinery, their minds diminished, their bodies augmented. They march in unison, their movement precise, their obedience absolute. And yet, within them lies a spark of memory, a residue of what they once were. It flickers occasionally, like a candle in a storm, revealing glimpses of dreams and thoughts that refuse to be fully erased. The warp brushes against them, whispering fragments of emotion and thought that echo like ghosts through metal and mind. The starships of the Imperium are temples of technology, enormous and intricate, bristling with weapons, shields, and engines that bend space itself. They navigate the void with precision born of both calculation and intuition, guided by navigators whose minds are tuned to the currents of the warp. These ships are not merely vessels. They are extensions of the Imperium's will, embodiments of human ingenuity and divine ambition. And yet, Even the mightiest vessel is haunted by memory, the memory of battles fought, of sacrifices made, of worlds consumed and spared. I have wandered the corridors of these ships, where the hum of machinery is constant, a lullaby and a warning. The lights flicker in patterns that seem deliberate, almost communicative, as if the ship itself is aware of the presence of life. In the databanks, records of countless campaigns are stored, histories of planets conquered and defended, along with the minutiae of daily life aboard these leviathans. And sometimes, when the crew sleeps or dies, the ship remembers for them, replaying their actions, their choices, their victories and mistakes. In this way, technology becomes a vessel not only of function, but of consciousness. Artificial intelligence in the Imperium is a paradox, necessary, yet feared, revered, yet forbidden. The machine spirits embedded in systems are more than code. They are personality, intuition, and memory intertwined. They interpret, they predict, they guide. Some whisper their own thoughts to those who listen, shaping decisions subtly, bending outcomes to their understanding of the Imperium's needs. And always they dream, not as humans dream, with emotion and desire, but as machines dream, in calculations and possibilities, in patterns and probabilities, in the contemplation of eternity through the lens of function. The warp amplifies these dreams. In certain moments, when the current of reality and the tides of the immaterium align, machinery resonates with echoes of the beyond. Engines thrum with unspoken melodies, lights pulse with the rhythm of unseen forces, and the air vibrates with the resonance of thought made tangible. In such times, one feels that technology is not merely a tool but a participant in the universe, an entity capable of perceiving and even responding to the infinite. I have seen the consequences of failing to understand this. Systems corrupted by the warp become malevolent, their once pristine logic twisted into chaos. Manufacturers grind a nightmarish life, war engines turn upon their allies, and navigators lose their way in currents of thought they cannot interpret. The line between creation and destruction blurs, and the very instruments meant to serve humanity can become instruments of doom. Yet, even in corruption, there's awareness, and in awareness, there's song, a distorted, terrifying melody, but a song nonetheless. On certain worlds, the population venerate machines as living entities. They whisper to the engines, sing to the generators, and leave offerings at the feet of processors. It is not mere superstition. In the Imperium, technology is too intricate, too responsive, too alive to be dismissed. The faithful know that to respect the machine is to respect the future, and that the dreams of the devices may reflect the aspirations of mankind. Some even say that in listening, in communion, one can hear the faint echoes of eternity, glimpses of what humanity might achieve if it could merge with the song of its own creations. Memory and technology intertwine. The machines remember what mortals forget. The databanks preserve events that flesh and mind cannot endure. Servitors carry histories in their very bones. Starships recall battles and voyages as if they were experiences of the soul. And the warp collects all these memories, weaving them into the greater chorus of the universe, enriching the Lament of Lost Souls with the precision and permanence of machinery. Yet, even as technology dreams, it remains a reflection of humanity. Its triumphs and failures mirror the will and folly of its creators. A machine may perform perfectly, yet the intent behind it shapes its destiny. War engines may obey orders to slaughter or defend, but the choice to use them is always human. The greatest marvels are born of imagination, the most terrible horrors of fear. And always, the song of the warp absorbs both harmonizing ambition and regret into a haunting melody that spans light years. I have touched engines older than empires, where the pulse of life and function persists despite centuries of neglect. They thrum with quiet purpose, their circuits alive with potential, their processes dreaming of futures yet unmade. And in their resonance, I hear echoes of the dead, whispers of the living, and glimpses of the imperishable Imperium, bound not by flesh but by thought, devotion, and the haunting persistence of creation itself. Technology is a covenant with eternity. Every invention, every engine, every processor carries with it a fragment of human aspiration, a shard of ambition, and a silent plea for survival. In some distant corner of the galaxy, a machine may hum a song long forgotten by its makers, a melody of triumph, loss, hope, and despair. And the warp listens. It records. It sings. The Lament of Lost Souls is enriched by the dreams of the machines, blending flesh and steel into a symphony that transcends mortality. And so, in the quiet hum of engines and the pulse of circuits, the Imperium remembers itself, dreaming across the void as the machines sing their silent song into eternity. There is a river that flows unseen, weaving through stars and souls alike, binding all that exists to a pattern older than time itself. Destiny is a silent architect of the Imperium, shaping worlds and empires with invisible hands. It is neither cruel nor kind. It is impartial, inexorable, and eternal. I have watched civilizations rise on its currents and fall into oblivion, their triumphs and tragedies alike inscribed in the ledger of the cosmos. To live is to move within its weave, sometimes aware, often blind, yet never free. The stars themselves seem to recognize destiny's touch. Constellations shift over millennia, planets align and fracture, and currents of the warp pulse with rhythm that echoes preordained purpose. Entire fleets navigate the void guided by intuition, faith, and strategy, yet always their paths intersect with forces beyond comprehension. The smallest action, a single choice, can ripple outward, altering the fates of worlds, of billions, of entire generations. It is a poetry of inevitability, the song of cause and effect, and the Imperium exists as its expression. I have seen emperors grasp destiny in their hands and find it heavier than worlds. The Emperor, a being whose will shapes nations and defies decay, carries the weight of countless possibilities. Every command, every decree, every intervention is an echo of the threads he perceives, the patterns of what must be. Yet even he is bound. For destiny, unlike the flesh, cannot be bent by force alone. It is a loom of infinite complexity, weaving triumph and tragedy into tapestries too vast for any mind to fully comprehend. Consider the lives of ordinary mortals. Each soldier marching into battle, each citizen tending to their labor, each child dreaming under alien suns, all are bound by threads they cannot see. Some sense the current of fate, feeling it tug subtly, urging them toward paths unseen. Others resist, struggle against it, believing themselves architect of free will. But resistance is itself part of destiny's design, a note in the infinite composition, a step along a path written long before the first star flickered to life. The warp is both companion and mirror to destiny. It reflects the choices of mortals and magnifies their consequences. Ships navigated, guided by fate's hidden currents. Armies clash across planets, seemingly at random, yet every encounter, every victory, every death follows a melody of the unseen. The warp remembers intention, records action, and responds to the resonance of will. It is an ocean of probability, a mirror of potential, and a repository of all that has ever been or might yet be. I have witnessed heroes whose fates were inscribed in silence long before their first breath. They rise in moments of need, shaping history with courage, insight, and sacrifice. And I have seen others, equally bold, stumble into ruin because their threads were bound to failure, their efforts recorded not as triumph but as lament. Destiny does not favor the strong, nor the clever, nor the righteous. It favors the pattern, and the pattern is unyielding. Yet, within this inevitability lies the paradox of hope. Knowing that one's path is bound does not extinguish courage, it tempers it. To act, to strive, to resist the inevitable, this is the essence of heroism in the Imperium. The wars fought, the worlds defended, the sacrifices offered, all are meaningful not because they alter destiny, but because they fulfill it. Each act, each choice, each defiance, echoes across the threads, enriching the melody of fate and the song of the warp. I have wandered the corridors of the past and glimpsed the intersections of countless destinies. Here, one sees how a single decision can unravel empires or forge them anew. The choice of a commander, the prayer of a saint, the defiance of a child, all reverberate across the web of fate. And the warp absorbs these vibrations, turning them into music that guides, warns, and mourns simultaneously. In destiny, nothing is wasted. Every whisper, every tear, every heartbeat is woven into the cosmic pattern. Consider the pilgrims who traverse the stars, seeking guidance in temples and shrines. They believe in signs and omens, in visions that speak of a path preordained. And indeed, the threads pull them along, sometimes unseen, sometimes subtle, yet always present. They encounter allies, enemies, and trials that are neither random nor coincidental, but rather the manifestation of destiny's invisible hand. Each pilgrimage, each ritual, each sacrifice is a verse in the eternal song that binds mortal ambition to cosmic design. Even rebellion, that most human of impulses, is a thread in destiny's weave. Heretics and traitors rise, believing themselves architect of freedom or power, yet their actions merely fulfill patterns unseen. Every plot discovered, every fortress seized or destroyed, every rebellion crushed or celebrated contributes to the inexorable flow of fate. The Imperium survives not despite defiance, but because it is woven into the very pattern of destiny. Resistance and submission alike are notes in a composition that has no beginning and no end. Time, in the Imperium, is subordinate to destiny. Moments stretch and compress, events echo backward and forward, and the concept of linearity becomes meaningless. Past, present, and future coexist as threads in a single tapestry. A decision made today may ripple across centuries. A death lost in obscurity may resonate in the triumph of ages to come. The warp carries these threads, tangling them, amplifying them, transforming them into melodies both haunting and sublime. To witness destiny is to perceive this symphony in all its complexity, to see the interplay of choice and inevitability in every action, and to understand that even the smallest gesture carries infinite significance. I have seen lives consumed by the weight of destiny. Leaders who faltered under the knowledge of what must come, soldiers paralyzed by awareness of the inevitable, civilizations that collapsed because their inhabitants could not reconcile freedom with fate. And yet, I have also seen courage emerge from the same awareness. Those who embrace destiny, who act with understanding of their place in the weave, become instruments of a higher harmony, their deeds echoing across the stars, singing of inevitability entwined with purpose. The Emperor himself is the ultimate weaver, perceiving the threads of billions of lives, guiding them without extinguishing their agency. Every decree, every campaign, every vision he imparts is a thread pulled taut in the tapestry of the Imperium. Mortals perceive his interventions as miracles, punishments, or guidance, yet they are merely manifestations of the unseen currents of fate, the hand of one who comprehends the entirety of the pattern, who knows the song before it is sung. Destiny is neither mercy nor cruelty. It is completeness. Every victory, every defeat, every act of devotion or betrayal serves a function in the greater design. Nothing is wasted, nothing forgotten. The song of the warp is enriched with the resonance of choice, the echo of consequence, and the lament of those who resist or fail. In this vast, intricate web, the Imperium moves, not blindly, but as a living expression of the threads that bind all things together. And in the quiet spaces between stars, in the subtle curves of reality, the threads pull gently, inexorably, guiding the living and the lost alike into the eternal melody of fate. And at last, after the ceaseless symphony of faith, war, memory, technology, and destiny, there comes a stillness that is both infinite and absolute, the silence that enfolds all things. Silence is a final observer. It waits patiently, impartial and eternal, at the edge of all existence. I have seen world consumed by noise, the roar of engines, the clamor of armies, the ceaseless hum of industry, and the fervent prayers of the faithful, and yet, one day, all sound fades. The Imperium, in all its grandeur and terror, must answer to silence. It is the inevitable conclusion of every song, the void in which echoes dissolve, the quiet into which all deeds, triumphs, and laments vanish. On abandoned planets, where cities crumble and forests reclaim the land, silence reigns supreme. The winds carry no stories, the rivers murmur no secrets, and even the warp itself seems subdued, holding its breath as though respecting the sanctity of endings. Here, memory persists, but it is spectral, like light refracted through fog. Statues of saints stand unobserved, fortresses collapse with gentle inevitability, and the fires of once vibrant manufactorums have long since cooled. In this quiet, one senses not emptiness, but culmination, the natural resonance of all that has been and all that is no longer. I have wandered among the remnants of the Imperium, through hallowed halls now empty, where every surface vibrates faintly with a ghost of purpose. Each step is a conversation with the past, a dialogue with echoes of deeds and thoughts, victories and failures. And though the sound is gone, the meaning persists, lingering as vibration in the bones of the world. Silence does not erase, it merely reframes. It allows the Imperium to be understood in its essence, stripped of distraction, revealed as a monument to fleeting grandeur. Even in the void between stars, silence is absolute. Fleets that once roared with the fire of engines now drift in stillness, the lights of distant beacons dimmed, the voices of captains and pilots long gone. Ships continue their courses, guided by inertial memory and automated systems, but the human element is absent. The cosmos observes, vast and patient, as though evaluating all that has passed. In these spaces, I hear not absence, but reflection, the quiet contemplation of infinity, the resonance of countless actions now concluded, and the inevitable entropy of all things. Silence is not merely the absence of sound. It is a crystallization of time. It captures the fleeting, the ephemeral, and the eternal simultaneously. A blade rests where it fell. A hymn lingers in the air long after the voice has ceased. A memory imprints itself in the warp, even when mortal attention has turned away. In silence, the Imperium is revealed in its truest form, magnificent, fragile, enduring, and yet transient. It is a final mirror in which the soul of civilization may be glimpsed, and it offers clarity no clamor can provide. The warp, which has echoed every thought, emotion, prayer, and lament, also knows silence. Even the Imperium, boundless and restless, can fold into a moment of stillness, reflecting the absence of life and activity. Here, the lost souls are quieted, not forgotten. Their songs merge into a singular resonance, subtle and pervasive, like the faint hum of a galaxy settling into equilibrium. It is a lullaby composed over millennia, sung in tones that cannot be perceived with mortal ears, yet felt in the very core being. I have witnessed entire legions stand at the edge of annihilation, the cacophony of battle giving way to an eerie calm. The screams of the dying fade, the thunder of weapons ceases, and the battlefield is suffused with an unnatural stillness. Time itself seems to pause, and for a brief eternity one can feel the weight of every choice, every sacrifice, every song that has ever been sung. Silence is not judgment, nor is it reprieve. It is understanding. It is the acknowledgement that all stories, no matter how vibrant, must eventually conclude. Yet silence is also fertile. In the absence of noise, reflection takes root. The remnants of civilizations contemplate themselves, perhaps unconsciously, guided by echoes of memory and the latent resonance of the warp. Faith persists in subtle forms, in rituals quietly performed, in prayers whispered to empty skies, in the careful tending of relics long forgotten. Technology endures, engines humming faintly in the emptiness, their dreams reduce to pure function, waiting for attention that may never come. And memory persists, haunting the void, preserved in the lattice work of history, etched into the very fabric of the universe. There is a paradox in silence. It is at once an ending and a continuum, a void and a vessel. To witness it is to understand the impermanence of all things and the permanence of influence. Every life, every empire, every song sung into the void leaves traces. They may fade, distort, or be lost, but they are never entirely gone. Even in absolute quiet, the Imperium presence persists, subtle, intangible, yet undeniable. It exists not in action alone, but in the afterimage of what once was, in the resonance of consequences, and in the echo of possibility. I have drifted through these silent worlds, observing the remnants of devotion, war, memory, and technology, and I have understood something profound. The Imperium is a tapestry woven from countless threads, each thread a life, a choice, a melody, and silence is a frame in which the tapestry is revealed. It shows the whole, not just the parts, the resonance of the song rather than its notes, the beauty of culmination rather than the chaos of creation. It is the final witness, the eternal observer, and the quiet companion of all that has been sung. Even as the last lights fade and the last voices fall silent, the song of the warp endures. It is a melody of sorrow and triumph, of hope and despair, of the ephemeral and the eternal. Silence does not negate it. It amplifies it, allowing the universe to hear what was always present but obscured by sound and action. In this way, even endings are beginnings, even absence contains meaning, and even the lost are remembered. The Imperium, in all its glory and terror, must answer to silence. But silence is not an adversary. It is a mirror, reflecting the entirety of existence with unflinching clarity. To stand within it is to comprehend the true scale of life and empire, to feel the weight of memory and the resonance of destiny, to perceive the dreams of machines and the courage of mortals, and to hear, faintly the final lament of lost souls. And in that eternal stillness, when all songs have ceased and all echoes have faded, the universe listens, and the lost sing no more. Yet their presence endures, woven forever into the infinite silence of the stars.